I am not. I have a slide because someone suggested I am not a healthcare professional. Yeah.
And you're saying that us as middle-aged women, we should do this estrogen testing. What about our daughters? At what age? Like, what's the age for that?
I think, if in a perfect world, you would get this test at your first OBGYN exam. That's when you would have it, because it would allow you to try to know what you can safely do or not. Now, birth control pills nowadays are a tiny, tiny fraction of what they were when I was growing up. Like literally like a fraction. I think they're not even a tenth of what they used to be. So when I say I was on the pill on and off for 20 years, I was on real pills. I think maybe the tail end of that, they started cutting it down. But like birth control pills today are really, really minor. And mind you, none of this has been associated with breast cancer directly. It's just about total load, right? If you have every single mutation, do you want to be doing that? So I think it allows young women to plan better. So there's all these birth control options now that didn't used to exist. Like basically rhythm has been like systematized, right? Like there's all these super cool things that you can do besides going on the pill, because the pill has risks besides what I'm talking about. But more importantly, sex, as in the ovarian life cycle, I think, like, I'm diverting from your question a little bit, but I think that in addition to getting estrogen gene testing, girls ought to be taught more about how the ovarian life cycle has changed. So, it used to be like, this is how I grew up. You're done at 35, right? That's what I had been taught. You're done at 35. It becomes progressively much more difficult to have a baby between the ages of 35 and 40. And the only women who ever have babies after 40 are like people who come from families like that, and people who have already had 7 or 8 or 9 babies. This is what I was taught, okay? That curve has changed, and I'm not an expert on this topic, but this curve has changed and it's moved back. So what that basically is implying is that like girls are not getting their period at 13 and 14 and 15 now. They're getting in at 11 and 12 and 13. And what that means is that they're done earlier. So the entire curve shifts back. And so what they're finding is that for girls who are starting earlier, and there's more and more and more of them, they're done earlier. So I think like girls at that first OBGYN exam should be given this test so they know how to plan their fertility life cycle. And they also have like a general idea of when they're going to be done. Because it's more likely 31, 32. Well, how does that work? We're getting married older. We're having babies later. What I was told, like I moved back to the States, I was like, 28, 29 years old. I checked in with an OBGYN and I said, hey, should I be worried about getting pregnant? And like, cause like the furthest thing from my mind. But I asked, right? Cause I hadn't had like a proper exam in a long time. And she said like, don't worry about it. This is like a really famous doctor. She was one of Oprah's doctors. She was on TV and everything. And so she's like, the technology is like amazing. You can have a baby whenever you want, which is true. If you're 50 years old, you can have a baby. You can have an egg donor. You can get shot up with all kinds of hormones, and they can make that table pregnant. That's what one of my doctors has said. I can make that table pregnant. So yes, you can, but at what expense to your body? That's a very long answer to say, yes, I think that all young girls should have this test. So they can plan, because we don't like to admit. I certainly didn't plan, and I certainly was never told to plan, but I think the field is changing, and it's more incumbent upon them to plan. Or to at least know. They should at least know. Because now they have this thing, they can plan to have egg freezing, right?